Hi all, we're going to do another job hunt video. Today we're going to go over resumes, and again, that's a big topic. It'd be real hard to cover in just one video. I want to follow my text file so I don't miss anything. Just to start, see, we'll start here. Here's one book that I would recommend. It's a thick book. I think you can get them on Amazon for a penny, but I like it for resumes because it's a full-size book and you can see what a resume looks like as far as a full sheet of paper goes. Most resume books are smaller. They may have bits and pieces of a resume, like how to write a certain section, but when they show a whole resume on a page, it may be cut short or it may be made smaller, so it's kind of hard to see what's going on. That's why I like this book. Let's see here, I've got a link to it, and I'll put this all down below. You don't have to write this stuff down. Here they have a look inside. Here you can get used ones for a penny. Okay, so just to go over the contents. The very first chapter, what's different about executive resumes? Chapter 2, how to write, edit, and enhance and focus and improve an executive resume. General and financial management, VP and CEO resumes. Chapter 4, headhunter resumes, business, principal, and company profiles. Chapter 5, sales, marketing, new business development. Chapter 6, technical, engineering, and scientific resumes. Chapter 7, medical, administration and license, CVs and resumes. There's a difference between a CV and a resume. A CV is what an educator would use, something like a college professor. The main difference is they have research items on their resume. Chapter 8, legal. Chapter 9, government and political. 10, nonprofits, education, philanthropy. Chapter 11, military. Chapter 12, special cases, unusual and non-traditional career paths. Chapter 13, cover letters. See, after you create a resume, then you have to create a letter to go along with it, and each letter has to be customized to the job opening you're applying for. We're just going to cover the resume, and the next video we'll go over the letters. Chapter 14, salary histories and reference sheets, and we'll do a whole video on salary and reference sheets. How you handle the salary question could knock you right out of the running, so that's a whole nother topic. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of this book. I really recommend it. Okay, so if we go out to Google and do a search for resume and then click on the images item, you can see they have a lot of pictures that show what a resume looks like, and then along the top they have the different categories. So we'll start here, college students. If we click this, this is what a resume for a college student would look like. Main difference between a college student and someone who's been working for a while is where the education section goes. If you're just coming out of college, you'll usually have this education section first, and then the work experience would be down below. Okay, so just to skim through a few of these. See, this one here looks kind of cluttered. Yeah. But you know, that's all a personal preference. I kind of like this one. See how the education part is here. Relevant experience. And then the employment section here. You know, sections that you add to your resume, that's a personal choice. You know. In general, you'll start with an objective, just one sentence. This is what I'm doing with my career. I'm applying for a job in such and such. And then you'll have a section that shows your education. I went to this college, in this college, I got a bachelor's degree here, I got a MA here, and so on. And then down below you'll have your work experience. And that's pretty much well it. You know, there are a few other categories. Let's see if we can find some. Here's one that shows internships. That would be good to show your experience. Work history, computer skills, you know. We'll go over this in more detail when we actually create one, but I just wanted to give you a general idea of what a resume looks like. I kind of like this style. It's a little bit too much reading. I've heard that hiring managers spend only a few seconds glancing at your resume. So if you make it too cluttered, I doubt very much if they'd actually get through that whole paragraph. So. But again, you know, that's a personal preference. That's a decision you have to make. Okay, so that's just a quick look at what a resume looks like. Everybody's resume is different. It's how you want to set it up, how you want to create it. So it would be best if you could create it with Microsoft Word. It's a little easier to format things, to kind of keep things in line and indent things and things like that. But if you don't own Word, you can use WordPad. Let's go over Word first here, just real quickly. We'll start up Word. And you can just start with a blank page. What's nice is if you go to the templates, go to new, and then we have these templates. Just down here we have resumes, and then they have starter files. You click here, this gives you an example of what it looks like. So let's click through here and see if we can find one that we like. Okay, I kind of like this one here. Then you can see here, it doesn't say open, it says to download. So it's a free download from the Microsoft website. Some of them come from Avery. Avery is like one of the big paper companies. So it downloads, installs, and opens. And then you can see here is your resume template. And then, you know, you still have to go in and fill in the text to match your skills. You know, they already have the design done for you. You know, you don't have to be a designer, you know, trying to make your resume look good. So see, like you can just go in here and click here and change the text. You know. Okay. So that's the Microsoft Word and templates. If you don't have Word, you can go to Word Online. Okay, so this free Word Online, you'll have to sign in to your Microsoft account and then go to this link here, and I'll put this link down below. And then we have these free Office apps online. They aren't full-blown versions, but they'll be good enough to create a resume. So we can click here to start Word. Okay, so you're basically running a free version of Word inside your browser. They have some general templates here. Here's a template for a resume cover letter. Here's one for a resume. Here's the resume. These are just the templates. See, if you wanted to, you could just click here and get a blank piece of paper. Okay. And then you can say, you can start creating your resume here. Okay, and then you can save it. I don't think there is a save button. See how it says it's saving here? And it's saved to your OneDrive. You can download it though. Download a copy. Download it as a PDF. So you can download that and it'll download it to your desktop. Save file. Point it to your desktop. And then here's the file that we downloaded. So we have a resume created as a PDF. Okay. So there's different ways to create it. You can use WordPad. WordPad is a text editor built into Windows. It's like a slimmed down version of Word. So you could just start typing here. But it's getting better over the years, but some of the features for indenting and things like that may not be all that great. So maybe we'll try it out, see how it works. Okay, so that's how you would create it. Here's some samples. You can use WordPad. If you have Word on your computer, use Word. There's built-in templates. You don't have to start from scratch. If you don't have Word installed on your computer, you can use Word Online for free at this link. And then these days what you would do is save your resume as a PDF. Okay? And then you would email that PDF to an employer. That's nice because if you save your resume as a Word file, sometimes the formatting, doesn't stay the way we would like it to. The sentences break in different spots and the paragraphs just sometimes they move around. So that's why it's nice to save it as a PDF, because then it stays exactly how we want it to look. to actually create a resume, how do we lay it out? Let's go ahead and do this in WordPad and see how it works. Okay, so one blank piece of paper. Resumes are only one page. If you've been working for 20 years and you've worked for a few companies, you might go 2 pages, but still, one page is what we're looking for. It's hard to squeeze things onto one page. All a resume is for, it's not to give them your life history. It's not to tell them everything about you. All a resume is for is to get the employer to pick up the phone and call you and set up an interview. That's all it's for. If you give them too much information, something might knock you out of the running. So you don't want to give them too much. Okay, so one piece of paper, inch borders all around, 1 inch border at the top, 1 inch border bottom, 1 inch on each side. Okay, so we're going to bring that down just a little bit. This is telling us we're in 1 inch. And let's see how view rulers. It's not showing us a ruler down the side. Okay, so view, zoom in, make things a little bigger so we can see what we're working on. I'm going to hit the enter key twice. See how we have a ruler here at the top, but we're not getting one on the side. Okay, and then we can type in our name. Now if we just hit the enter key, it double spaces it. It brings it down too much here. I'm going to hit the backspace key. If I hold shift and press enter, then it only moves it down 1 line. So if I type in my address, then it's right next to the other line. Hold shift, press enter. Telephone. Okay, we'll select that text, and then this guy here, if you just hover over that, you'll get a little pop-up that says center the text. So we'll click that, and that centers the text in the middle of the page. We can hit this guy here for bold. Okay. If we wanted to, we could change the font. There's many different fonts. That's just the style of the text. This courier, that makes it look like the old-fashioned typewriters. And then there's courier new. I usually like to use that one. That's what I grew up with. And then, because this job hunting thing is kind of like a hobby for me. I went to a resume writing seminar at a small college a few years ago, and the woman said, if you use courier text, courier font, it makes you look old. It's an old-fashioned type of font. That's the type of thing for the psychological aspects behind a resume. Yeah. Sometimes the psychological aspects matter, sometimes they don't. Bigger companies, for sure they matter. You'll get real HR people who are paying attention to every little thing. For smaller companies, 100 people or less, roughly, they don't care. They're just looking for someone to fill a spot. Do you have the necessary skills, and things like that. But for real companies, Fortune 500 type companies, they will definitely be paying attention to those type of things. So your font choice, that's up to you. I wouldn't use something too fancy. Maybe and I'm no expert on this font stuff. There's whole college courses on fonts. So let's see. Times New Roman is the one I'm looking for. So that seems to be a common font. Okay. So then we'll hit the enter key twice, and then we'll hit this guy here. It aligns the text to the left, and type in objective. Then hit the tab key and type in your objective. What do you want? So that's where the samples come in. Let's say we'll go out to Google. Say, how do we create an objective? That's basically what these top lines are saying. Career objective. Administrative assistant with 6+ years experience working directly for president of 3M. So that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, so for the objective, we'll keep it simple, and we'll say sales and then we found it on the web, so we'll say job post sometimes we find a job post on the web and they have a actual ID number that points right to the job post. Then hit the enter key twice, and we'll go experience, hit the tab key, and here you type in your previous jobs. Okay, so we'll say Acme Company. The Acme Company in New York, from January 1990 to present. Hold shift, press enter, hit the tab key twice, and then type in what you did there. We'll go sales manager, blah 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 blah, right? How do you know what to write here? Trying to come up with something that's professional sounding is tough, so that's where these books come in, the samples online. But something that's even better is I just happen to know of this site here, Onet. So we'll go to this guy here. Okay, so Onet is a website that you can use for your job hunt. There's many different things that we can do here, but what I like to use it for is to get the professional sounding lines that we use to put in here. So like, we'll copy this text and go back to this here keyword, and then it gives us this list here. So this is just some general information. They're saying sales manager, it's a bright outlook for the field, and so on. We'll go ahead and click on that one, and then here's lines that you can cut and paste. So sales and marketing, customer personal service. So we'll say sales and marketing knowledge of principles and methods for showing and promoting sales system. We can just copy that and paste it right into here. I'm just hitting the tab key here. Now, of course, you need to edit this a little bit, to match your job, but that gives you a general idea of what I'm talking about. This section doesn't need to be bold. This doesn't need to be bold. This word and this word should be bold. And then we can enter in a second job. We'll say the ABC company from $1980 to December 1989. So this company name can be bold, but the date doesn't have to be bold. Now this should match up with this, right? From December 89 to January 1990. Now let's say you happen to have a gap here. It took you a year to find this position. That's gonna be a tough one to explain in a job interview. These days it's probably a lot more common. It's very common to take a year or two to find a job, so I wouldn't worry about it so much. But in years past, they always wanted things to match up, the dates. The employers would look for gaps in your resume. Hold shift, hit enter, hit the tab key a couple times, and we can go back to Onet and get some more text. Okay. Next section would be education. So WordPad seems to be doing a pretty good job. You can say the great University New York, and let's say we started work here, right? So we'll say September 1975 to, and we graduated in June, say June 1979. Hold shift, press enter. Next we put in the degree. So we'll say Bachelor of Business. We're in sales. So we'll put 1979. And then write a sentence here about your schooling. So if we go back to ONET, let's see if it has something here for, we've got this area here, we'll go skills. So let's say we can stick this in there, used Microsoft project. Okay, so you have to fill in this, whatever you did at school. That's the tough part, trying to come up with good stuff here. And again, there's all types of psychological aspects that you can go into here. So we're just kind of doing a brief overview on how to actually create a resume on a piece of paper. And these days, that's all you really need on your resume. And I've even saw some articles that say you can take off the objective. That area is covered in the interest letter, in the cover letter. But I don't really agree with that, because if they happen to disregard your cover letter as fluff, how do they know what job you're applying for? Are you applying for a sales job or a janitor's job? You want to make sure that's on your resume. Now, there's other things that you can add here. One that we used to put on is personal. And then, you can say common things, willing to relocate. That's important, because when you're in management, you may have to move. They want to know. Something that we used to put on this type of thing used to be standard on resumes, but these days it's considered fluff and you really don't need it. But I just wanted to give you a general idea of how you create a resume, things that you need to consider. Do you or don't you? Like, there may be things that you want to add here. Whatever it may be, something you shouldn't do is pad your resume. Like here we can say customer personal service knowledge of principles. Let's say we went we said manager of, right? You weren't really the manager, but let's say this company's out of business now. Who's gonna know, right? I've read that companies expect you to pad your resume. You should add things to your resume that you might not think is necessary. I've looked for enough jobs to where I've had big resumes, I've had small resumes, 1 page, I've had 3 pages. They say when you get old, don't put the dates on. If that's none of their business, it's a discrimination thing if they're looking at your age. And I went to one seminar, the woman said, if you don't add dates, then they know you're old. Just a few years ago, I had a young woman, I applied to the company, she actually called me up and said, where's the dates on your resume? She was a young person in HR, probably just came right out of school. She's looking for a stock resume with company names, cities, dates. Getting back to that 1-page resume or 3-page resume, I had one fella say, you need to add all this other stuff on there. You've done all this other stuff that should be on your resume. Then I had another fella say, that stuff shouldn't be on there, it doesn't need to be there. So things like that, it's a personal choice, how you want to create your resume. Now, these days, this is the job that you did, right? Now, if you go out to the web and you find a job post for a sales manager job, and they list specific things in that job post, make sure you get those items into your resume as best you can. Those are the things they're looking for as far as keywords, K-E-Y, keywords. Especially with the bigger companies, they have computer programs that search through the resumes. If your resume, if the words in your resume don't match the keywords in their job post, the computer kicks it right out of the system. So the words in their job post should be in your resume. Don't add fluff, but try to get those words, try to get those exact sentences in your resume the best you can. It used to be that we would create one resume, bring it down to the local print shop, and have them print 500 copies. Then we would send the same resume out to all the companies. Of course, the cover letter would be tailored, would be customized to the job, but all of the resumes were the same. These days, the companies expect your resume to be tailored to their job post because they know we all have computers and it's easy to tailor our own resume now. You don't have to go to the local print shop and have them typeset it. See, we used to bring our resumes to the local print shop and they would typeset it. They actually take out the little characters, put the little characters onto the board. However typesetting is done, I don't really know, but it would make the text real clear. I mean, it's really sharp. It's like newspaper print or magazine print. You know, it's really sharp. So that type of thing isn't necessary anymore. It's nice to do, you know, if you're going for a high-level executive job, you may want to consider that. But for most of us, it's not the type of thing you really need. And go with a better paper. You know, you don't have to go with 100% cotton paper, but go with like a 25%. You know, it used to be important. You know, you would go 100% cotton paper. You can see here you can get 500 pieces for $25, but there's also 25%. See, here's 25% and it's a lot cheaper. Okay, in general 25% cotton is good enough. The higher level jobs, you should go with 100%. Okay, so in preparing for this video, I skipped through a few videos online, and one I bumped into, the fellow said, no one cares about the paper. You know. But that's a judgment call you have to make. And these days, we don't even print paper. We don't even mail paper in envelopes anymore. It's all done through email. So, you know, I know a few years back, I tried to kind of get around getting stuck in the email thing, and I sent in a paper resume. And the woman called me up and said, hey, we need your resume in the computer system. Please go online and fill out the form online. So what I would do these days is, what I recommend now is just buy one of these 25% paper. So you have it if you need it. You know, you happen to bump into a job ad on Sunday and you need to mail it out right away. And then maybe a small pack of the 100%. Here you get 100 pieces for 14 bucks. Just in case, you know, if you happen to need it, it's there. You know, you don't have to run to the store and get it to try to get the resume in the mail as soon as possible. So. But the main way you apply for jobs now is, like, you would take this guy here, go File, Save as Other Formats, and then down here, Save as a PDF. So you can't even do that from You can't even do that from WordPad. Okay. See, if we take this and save it, we'll just save the file to the desktop. We'll go my resume. Save it to the desktop. Let's open Word. We'll go File, Open. Open my resume. So we open that file in Word, and then we'll go to Save as Other, and save as a PDF. So see, we can save it as a PDF from Word. See, now we have this guy here. This is a PDF, and that's what you would email to the employer. See, what I was talking about earlier is like if you have this guy here, sometimes if you email this out, you can see how the formatting changed here. See how the indents kind of got shifted around. So that would be the purpose of saving it as a PDF. If you aren't familiar with the PDF stuff, if you go to adobe.com, let's see, if we go down here to downloads, Adobe Reader DC. Here, I'll grab this link here. And you can see this is just the reader. Install now. When it installs this guy, it wants to install this security application. I usually uncheck it, but it's probably not a bad idea. It just checks your files as you download them. So I think most people know what the Adobe Reader is now, the Acrobat Reader, but I just thought I'd bring it up. So this is just the installer. See how it says install? So save the file to your desktop. And then you go out to this guy. That's the file we saved to our desktop. And you start that up. User account control. And then this guy actually does the downloading. So you can see here it's saying I already have it installed, and click finish. That's why I'm able to open these PDFs, because I have the Adobe Reader, the Acrobat Reader on my computer. I think Windows has one too. Open with Microsoft Edge. So that would be the Microsoft version of the Acrobat Reader. Same thing. So if you're on Windows 10, you don't really need the Adobe version. Okay, so remember though, when we were online with Word Online, when we had Word opened in a web page, we could export it as a PDF. That's how we got this guy here. So from Word Online, you can save your resume as a PDF. So that's a real nice feature. Okay, so with all that being said, if you've gone to college, spent a lot of money taking courses, I wouldn't try to make your resume by yourself. It's a real skill. I would find somebody who knows what they're doing and have them create a professional resume for you. Like, you'll go to the office, sit down with them for a half hour or so. They'll ask you a bunch of questions. They'll design your resume for you. They'll be able to ask you questions and draw out certain things that we normally wouldn't think of. They can take some silly little thing that we did and make it look great on a resume. They know what they're doing. So I would liken it to cake decorating. I can make a cake, put some candles on it, decorate it a little bit, but it's not going to look all that great as compared to a cake that you would buy at a store, a cake that you would buy at a real bakery. Same type of thing with your resume. You need a professional looking resume. So, for $50, it's definitely worth it. There's also a program called Resume Maker. It can do all that stuff for us. Let's see here. It's only about $10 or so. You can download a free version here. It's only a 1-day trial. But main reason I like this is because it's got this virtual interview stuff where on your computer screen it looks like a HR person sitting behind a desk, and they ask you a question, and then you can practice answering the question back. It's not like you're sitting in a room just talking to yourself, and it's a good way to practice. It also throws up sample replies. It's a good way to practice an interview. So that's the main reason why I like this Resume Maker. I haven't checked YouTube to see if there's something like that on. It wouldn't surprise me if they do have these out here. So here's some. But still, as you click through these, it's still kind of hit and miss, right?
Hello. How are you? This is a virtual interview based on questions asked at Google. Check if you are ready for joining Google. Shall we start? To get from point A to point B, you don't know if you can get there. What would you do? Imagine you have a closet full of shirts. It's very hard to find a shirt. So what can you do to organize your shirts for easy retrieval?
So
What
you can
method
see
would you use to look up a word
some of
in a
these
dictionary?
questions are kind of silly, but what they're going
Every
after
man in a village
is
of
the
100 married
psychological
couples has
stuff.
cheated on his wife.
Yeah.
Every wife in the village instantly knows when a
And
man
there's
other than
whole
her
books
husband has
written on
cheated,
that type
but
of
does
thing.
not know when her own husband has. The village...
I have plans to create a video on interviews, but it would still be a good idea that you studied that stuff, because it would be impossible to cover it in one video. So I think that pretty much will does it for today. Here's a general idea of what I'm gonna plan on doing next. Next time we'll go create a cover letter, how to create a reference page. You don't send out a reference page until they ask. It's thought of as bad etiquette if you send it all at one time. After you go to the interview, you send a thank you letter. We'll do a video on how to create a thank you letter. What to do when you get the call. What's strange there is sometimes the employers play games. They'll call you 7 o'clock at night, see if you're drunk. or if there's kids yelling and screaming in the background, they might not want to hire a woman with kids. So I once had a fella call me Sunday night, 7 p.m. You know, I didn't take it serious. I said, "What's this guy calling me at 7 p.m. on Sunday?" He ended up hiring me, but I came real close to blowing him off. You know, he said to me, he said, "I just happen to be sitting here at my desk going through a pile of resumes, trying to find someone to hire." These days, they try to filter people out with the phone interview. They used to call everyone in. They'd get a list of 20 people or 50 people, and they'd call everyone in. Now they go through a pile on the phone. You know, how do you handle a phone interview? You can't avoid it, right? You have to do it. What do you do? You know, what is the interview process? Some companies have 1, some 2, some 3. High-level executive, you'll have as many as 5 interviews. You know, last interview might be dinner. They take you out to dinner, try and get you drunk, you know, see if you're an alcoholic. Take you to a strip club, see if you're a boozer. You know, so you have to really be careful. You know. How do you prepare for the interview? How do you attend to the interview? You know. Where is it? You know, you have to drive 2 hours there. Is it in a strange town? You know. Sure, you can go on Google or MapQuest and get the map, right? That shows you where the skyscraper is. But where do you park? You know, and then there's the building, but where is it? That's a pretty big building. Go in the front door, go up the stairs, turn left. You know, big companies will have an email. They'll send you an email with exact steps to the building. You know. What to do after the interview? Do I call them? Don't I call them? Do I bug them? Don't I call them? You know. First day on the job, you know, what do I do? What don't I do? You know. So, like I said earlier, I can go on with this stuff forever. So we'll eventually cover most of this stuff, and I'm hoping you pick up a few books and watch a lot of videos online, because everybody's got a different opinion, everybody's got a different story. So, okay, so I think we'll call her a day there. See ya. Bye.